But Brandon, let's move on into the next topic, moving into some college football playoff talk. And first off, before we get into everything, if you're on YouTube, you can look below the table. And Brandon was all like, Ricky, I hate to be that guy, but I got to take off my shoes. So Brandon is on, and we've had debate about this. No shoes or shoes. When I wore flip-flops and then took the flip-flops off, the comment section erupted. How dare you not wear shoes on a podcast? Whereas there's other ones where Mark will be in his sandal, or not his sandals, in his socks over there. And then we'll get commenters saying how cool it is that we don't wear shoes while we podcast. So I just wanted to point that out. Your dogs are barking a little bit, and that's why you had to take off the shoes.
Hey, when you're wearing dress shoes all day, let me tell you, sometimes your feet just, they're yelling at you to let them free. And like I said, I hate being that guy because I'm just not a feet guy. Not at all. So
I'll say this. When this is the daytime job, when this is the full-time, I don't care what Mark says, dress shoes are outlawed at Most Valuable Podcasts, where unless it's a very important business meeting, no dress shoes. Gym shoes only. Like, we're very casual here at Most Valuable Podcasts. Half the time, I don't even wear jeans. So that's how...
Yeah, Ricky's wearing shorts in the dead of winter.
Usually I'm wearing basketball shorts. But let's talk about some college football playoff. We are looking at what's called the nightmare scenario for the college football playoff. And this was brought up... where I saw it was Get Up. So last week on Get Up, they talked about this nightmare scenario, which it is, and I will quote, there are 4 parts of this that need to take place. The first one is Michigan needs to win out. So they need to beat Ohio State this week. The other one, Notre Dame needs to go undefeated. They need to finish without a single loss on their resume. The third one, Clemson, they need to also finish the entire season undefeated and win and go without a single loss. And then Georgia needs to do the same, beating Alabama in the SEC title game. So what this would mean with this nightmare scenario that we would have undefeated Clemson and undefeated Notre Dame, which would most likely be getting in. They are undefeated. Then you have a Michigan team that is a conference title, but has 1 loss to that Notre Dame team. And then you have a Georgia team with 1 loss, but an SEC title, and an Alabama who is a 1-loss team. And the reason why they kind of said this was a nightmare scenario, Brandon, is in many people's minds, if this happens, the rankings would be this. Clemson number 1, Notre Dame number 2, Georgia number 3, or you can flip Georgia and Notre Dame, but
so
basically they're 2-3.
Are you saying that Alabama would lose to Georgia in the regular season?
No.
And then
they would beat Auburn this week, but then lose to Georgia in the SEC title game. If Alabama loses 1 game, and that game is Georgia.
Excuse me. Yeah, Georgia was not. I'm just looking at the extended schedule. I'm forgetting that. For some reason, I had Georgia in my mind that Alabama was playing Georgia
this week.
At the end of the season for the final regular season game.
No.
But they're not. Because the regular season ends this week.
To clarify, Alabama would win the Iron Bowl this week, end the regular season, and then lose to Georgia in the SEC title game. Many people think it would be Clemson, Notre Dame, Georgia, and then Alabama who would get into that title game instead of a Michigan who would have a Big Ten title getting snubbed for another SEC. And they kind of had the whole debate of, what does this mean? Well, if this nightmare scenario happens, then does that kind of welcome the debate for, all right, we need 6 teams. We need 8 teams in the college football playoff. I just want to ask you, not necessarily that, but just a very broad question. If this happens, this nightmare scenario where Alabama loses to Georgia, everything stays the same as it is. Every other team wins out, but Georgia beats Alabama, and Alabama knocks out a team like Michigan. What will that mean for the college football playoff as a whole?
It means we pretty much had what we had last year. That's what that means.
Well, last year and 2 years ago, because Michigan would then join the Penn States of the world, where Ohio State knocked out Penn State, and Penn State had the Big Ten title.
Yes, but it also mean that we have pretty much the same teams we had last year.
Yeah.
We would have Georgia, we would have Clemson, we would have Alabama, and the only difference is there would be Notre Dame.
Yeah.
That would be stupid. But here's the thing, though, is that I don't actually foresee Alabama losing to Georgia, so I don't think that happens. But the problem is that I would be if it by some weird thing happened and Georgia beat Alabama and Alabama has a loss, I don't know. I think it would be really, really, really bad to keep out Michigan. I think it would be really bad to keep out Michigan. I think that's where you have to say, hey, Michigan, they lost their first. If they go on, if the Michigan Wolverines go on and they win this week, they beat Ohio State, they win the Big Ten championship game, that team absolutely 100% without a doubt deserves to be, not deserves, has earned the right to be in the playoff. Earned the right. And this is coming from someone who people would say would lean a little SEC. Michigan has deserved the right, earned the right, and deserves to be in the playoff. And Alabama, sorry, they'd have to be knocked. They'd have to be bumped. If everything went the way that you said, it'd have to be Clemson. It'd have to be Notre Dame. It would have to be Michigan. And most likely then it's probably going to be Georgia.
Here's the thing, and this is the debate that was then brought up, because it was basically Greeny and then Marcus Spears, who college football analyst, and he played at LSU as a tight end. He made a great point to me, and this is a point that only Alabama's the only team where you can make this point. And he goes, the debate comes down to what then is more important, a conference championship, or he goes, he's like, I'm an analyst. My job is to look at the tape. And he says, if I gave you tape of Alabama, you don't even know who they are, I just gave you tape of this football team and it happened to be Alabama, then I said, okay, I'm going to give you tape of Michigan, you would come back and say, well, yeah, that first team that you showed me, they are clearly the better team. And that's the debate that this then brings up, is what's more important when it comes to a college football playoff? The fact that you won a conference championship, because some people also throw around, like, look at the conference that you love to make fun of, the Pac-12. Sometimes they get a Pac-12 winner that has 2-3 losses. So it's like, how much validity can we put into that conference championship? Should it then be, and this goes across the board, should it just be, and that's supposedly why we have this committee of, hey, Alabama, yes, they have one loss, but they are still clearly a better football team than the Michigan Wolverines.
But here's the thing. Here's the one point I will make on that. And
then why have conferences?
And it's that if you look at Michigan, and yes, to your point, if you put the two teams side by side, most likely someone's going to say that team, and they're pointing at Alabama.
Like, I'll say this. If an alien came down from Mars and knew nothing about football,
we know who they're going to pick.
Yeah.
We know who they're going to pick. But at the same time, it has to go towards what you look at here in the season and how you progress, and how that Michigan team has progressed immensely, and they have come a very long way.
They're not the same team.
If they lose to Notre Dame that first game by one score, by one touchdown, then they blow out a Nebraska team that Ohio State had trouble with. They beat a Northwestern team on the road that wins the West. That has been a very tricky, tough team this year by 3, but they win on the road. They beat Wisconsin, ranked Wisconsin. Oh, and by the way, they blow out Maryland, who Ohio State had trouble with. They beat a ranked Wisconsin. They beat a ranked MSU. They beat a ranked Penn State. Then Rutgers, then Indiana. And if Michigan could win on the road at Ohio State, I don't care how poorly Ohio State has played these last couple of weeks of the season, for you to go into the horseshoe and win, and finally win, and then turn around, play in the Big Ten championship game, rebeat Northwestern. If you don't get in you might as well just pack it in, crumble the playoff system, and go back to the BCS. You might as well, because that proves it doesn't matter how good you have to be, doesn't matter how good you have to do, doesn't matter if you win the big games, doesn't matter if you win a Big Ten championship. It doesn't matter, because they're still going to put in the Alabama team that they want to see anyways. That's what that would show. That's what that would look like. That's what the optics would be on that. So if Michigan does all this, and the scenario that you brought up, the nightmare scenario, if that played out, and Alabama were to sneak in ahead of Michigan with the Wolverines doing exactly what I said, hypothetically, then I've lost all hope in the committee's ability to truly reason and look at what is going to be best for the playoff.
The thing that this does is, the first thing I just want to say is, we know this. What I'm about to say is not like, whoa, Ricky blew my mind. I didn't know what was going on over here. Not all conferences are created equal. The SEC is showing us yet again that they are in a league of their own. And the reason why I say that is, I'm not going to have this debate because it's really just going to be talking in circles. If someone came up to me and said, yeah, if this scenario happened, I would put Alabama in over Georgia, I would even say to that person, all right, I can see where you're coming from. I don't agree with you, but I can see where you're coming from, because even look at that side of it. Yes, Georgia beat Alabama. Let's say it's close. Let's say it's like a 3-point game. Yeah, they beat them on a neutral site, but then you can also say, yeah, Georgia got blown out by LSU. Alabama blew out LSU. They both played those games in LSU.
And then how bad was the loss that Alabama would take to Georgia? Was it a 3-point loss?
I'm saying if it's a 3-point loss,
if it's a 3-point loss, 23-20, and Alabama were to lose on a last-second field goal,
or if it's an overtime loss.
I mean, the committee will. Well, you know, Alabama. If you look at those last 2 minutes that Alabama, that's. Put them in. I liked what I saw in the last 2 minutes of Alabama, so put them in over Georgia, even though Georgia got the win. That's actually what could happen. Yeah. Alabama found themselves in the similar scenario last year, and they still were able to get in. And while people were very upset with that, I mean, no one should have been surprised by it.
Yeah.
There are going to be teams that the committee just will find a way to get Alabama in.
Can I throw another wrench into this nightmare scenario?
Sure, because it's already, crapped up.
Let's say Oklahoma wins this week against West Virginia. They'll play Texas again in the Big 12 title game. If they beat Texas, yes, they have a loss, but that's to Texas, and then they avenge that loss. So then do you put them above Alabama as well, because they'll have a conference championship too?
No, I don't think so. I think that the committee would be smart enough to look at that Oklahoma team and be like, ooh, you guys may score a lot of points, but you are a scary, not in a good way, like a scary, like, it could go either way with you guys. You could either get blown out or you could blow out. And you know what? I think that the committee would actually try and stay away from that. They even though people will say, well, Brandon, it's Alabama, they're going to blow out. They're going to blow out anyway.
You don't want a Michigan State. Remember that Michigan State team that got in?
Oh, horrible.
And then got blown out by Alabama?
Horrible.
But they were Big Ten conference champs. That's what they were that year.
But the Clemson Oklahoma game was left a lot to be desired too. So it's just I don't think so. And actually,
you're talking about you're right. You're talking about 2 years ago.
2 years ago, yeah. Couple years back.
Even the Alabama-Clemson game from this past semifinal wasn't that great.
Horrible. What was it, 22-3?
Remember how the Rose Bowl happened, and you came over to my house, you're like, we're going to get a second great game, and then I don't even remember
I think we took a nap.
Yeah, I don't even remember.
Took a nap in that game. Woke up and been like, see you, Ricky. Terrible game. Why did I come over here?
I don't remember what happened in that game whatsoever.
I think that actually if things go right and this team wins, I think Washington State would actually be in front of Oklahoma. Washington State has played darn good. And they need a lot to happen. They need a lot to happen. But I think that talk about a team not necessarily deserving, but a team that's gone out and that has earned that spot. I think Washington State has come honestly from nowhere to put the mustache on the map.
Here's what they would need. They would need Oklahoma to lose one more. They would need
Could happen.
They would need Georgia to lose.
Could happen.
Or Alabama to lose too, which that ain't going to happen. So pick Georgia to lose. And then they would need. Oh damn! Then they would need Michigan to lose, but they would need Michigan to beat Ohio State, but then lose the Big Ten title game, or Ohio State wins and then loses the Big Ten title game. Like they would need a lot to happen to get into the discussion. Here's what I want to rear this to, and this is kind of what they did on Get Up. If this nightmare scenario happens, do you think it adds more fuel to the fire? And I know we've had this discussion of like, oh, well, if you add 6 teams, then 7 and 8 are pissed off. Oh, you have 8 teams? Oh, 9 and 10 are pissed off. Here's what Greeny said, and I want to ask you what you think on his model. He says you got 5 Power 5 teams. So you take the conference champions of the SEC, the Big 10, the Big 12, the Pac-12, and the ACC. Those are 5-year teams. That's 1 through 5. Then the last 3 are at-large teams. Just the best 3 outside the Power 5 champions. Then maybe you can give like UCF a chance at one of them. They could be like 8 or 7. What do you think to a model like that? Or do you think that's just adding too many to this playoff and making it so convoluted?
Yeah, I don't like it. Personally, I don't, because I think it's becoming then too big. And with 4 right now, I think it makes it. I think part of it is that it would lose some of its meaning. Mm-hmm. I think it would lose some of its meaning because there would be teams where, right now it's like it's a dogfight in so many areas. It is a dogfight, and for these teams to try and have to still play really good because they're not guaranteed their conference championship. They're not guaranteed to be in their conference championship. Mm-hmm. They have got, they're still playing hard, and I think that you lose a little bit of that by opening it up to more. I don't know. I agree with kind of what Marcus Spears was saying, is that it's almost like the playoffs before it actually gets to the playoff. You open it up for more, it just becomes more of, well, we were the 9 and 10 team, and we really think that we should have gotten in. Oh, we're the 11 and 12 team. We should have gotten in. We felt like we played good enough. It's not. That is not a solution. That's not a long-term solution. Mm-hmm. It makes a couple more people happy. It makes the UCF people happy because most likely they would probably get in, because where they sit right now, it's about 8 or 9, and they would probably be in with something like that, or what is it, 7 or 8, something like that. I don't know. They would probably be in on that model, so those people would be happy. But I don't think it's going to. I don't think it's going to solve the issue. I don't think it's going to solve the issue, and it's a human. It's not a robot. I mean, when it was a robot, I couldn't even get it right. So it's a human thing now, and humans are not 100% on. There's a margin of on the error. Ball with everything. They're not 100%. Yes, I can say this with certainty that we're making the right choice and we're putting the right team in. No, it's like an umpire in baseball. You think it's a strike, it could have been a ball, or vice versa. So this is how it is. This is, I hate to be that guy who's like, this is how it is, but this is what we have to deal with. That's why, honestly, every single game in your season is important. Mm-hmm. That's what it makes this into be, where every team every week is fighting for a win, because it's extremely important. And that's why also there are teams who have the cupcake teams on their schedule get dogged by fans of teams that don't have the cupcakes on their schedule. Because while they're playing fairly quality opponents each and every week, they'll complain that you have the Alabamas, that you have the Georgias, the teams like that will throw in the Citadel, that will throw in a Mercer, that will throw in a team like that, because they need an easy win either at the beginning of the season, at the end, or both. And the one thing I'm looking... Oh, here it is. I found it.
So I saw this on Twitter, and the thing said, wouldn't this be beautiful? And it's a 16-team college football playoff.
No, it wouldn't be.
Do you want to hear it for this year?
Not fucking really, but go ahead.
Here's what it would be. So, and we'll pick game by game to see if it will be interesting, and it probably won't. You ready? The first game taking place in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. The Cyclones from Iowa State versus Alabama. Yeah, that's going to be a fun one. In Alabama.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
Would this then completely get rid of bowl games?
So how they have,
would it cut down on a number of these bowls?
So how they have it is the first round is in the higher seed. So like for Alabama, it'd be in their stadium. Then the semifinal or the quarterfinals would be Sugar Bowl, Rose Bowl, Fiesta Bowl, Peach Bowl. The semifinals would be Orange Bowl, Cotton Bowl, National Championship. Okay. That's how they have it set up.
Okay.
I don't know how you do it. But Alabama, Ohio, or Iowa State, yeah, I'm not watching that. Alabama's going to win. Then I'll admit, you got one that could be interesting in Pullman, Washington. You got West Virginia, Washington State. But whoever wins that game is going to lose to Alabama. Then you get Florida, Georgia. That'll be an interesting one. We saw that one already. Syracuse, Michigan. Clemson, Texas. Ohio State, LSU. Oklahoma, Penn State. And then UCF, Notre Dame. Those would be our first round games. And then we'd go into a championship. I think it's too much. I think it's way too much.
It's tons. It's a ton. It's way too much.
It takes the regular season. And the thing I saw, and I wish I could find it, I wish I could give credit to who it is I follow for it. They said, why are you continuously trying to make college football like every other meaningless sport? Look at college basketball. I love the tournament.
Yeah.
Regular season's useless to me. Right, it's useless. Like right now, Duke is playing San Diego State. I could care less who wins that game because Duke is still going to get into the tournament.
But you do care because you want Duke to go undefeated.
Yeah, well, okay, this shit, bad example. Okay, Gonzaga, Illinois later tonight.
Yeah.
Bad example. I want Illinois to win.
Come on, buddy, find one.
Iowa, Michigan this year. Could care less who wins.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
It does not matter
until the conference tournaments.
Doesn't matter.
Until the conference tournaments, it does not matter.
Towards
as long as you have an okay record,
towards the end of the season in conference play, and then those tournaments. Yep. That is the only thing that matters, and you are 100% right. If they do that with college football, then they are completely saying that the regular season barely matters. Why would people watch?
That Notre Dame Syracuse game wouldn't matter.
Why would you get excited at the beginning of the season? You know, Notre Dame Michigan wouldn't matter. Notre Dame Michigan wouldn't have mattered, and guess what? That totally did matter. But
I almost wanted to say Alabama versus any team in the beginning, but that doesn't matter because Alabama usually wins.
But I'm just, you know, because that game, that Notre Dame Michigan game. If this was a 16-team playoff,
Washington Auburn
for Notre Dame to have won that game, while now how it's set up, critical. They needed to win that game. Otherwise, if that was their one loss, Notre Dame is not in the college football playoff scenario right now.
Yeah, well, because they don't have a conference tournament.
Exactly. They have no conference.
Yeah, exactly.
So. That's the point, and that's the problem. If you make it into 16, is that why would you even watch for the first 7 weeks?
Exactly.
Why would it matter? Why would it even matter?
I love the thing I love about the college football playoff is the BCS. I hated, and the reason why I hated it is you had to go undefeated. Had to go undefeated to get into the BCS National Championship,
because according to the computer, those were the two best teams.
Yeah, those are the two best if they're undefeated. I love the college football playoff because even a one-loss team can find their way into and kind of finagle their way into the playoff to where I don't want to see it expanded. I want that Alabama LSU game to really matter. I want that Georgia LSU game to really matter. I want these regular season games to actually mean something rather than being like any other sport. Like even the NFL, even the NBA, the regular season games, like, yeah, there's a couple that's like, oh man, if we really won that one, we would have been in. But really, it's like you're telling me the Vikings lost this past Sunday. You think they're really out of it? No. They win a couple, they're in. They're still in the playoff standings as I look at it right now. Whereas if it was college football, hey, we lost that game, we might not be in the playoff now. That is what the kind of weight on those regular season games, and that's what I like about this current college football format, I should say.
Yeah, I think that where they have it right now is I think it works. It's always going to leave people upset. It's going to leave people who talk about it, commentators, it's going to leave us upset. And we're going to say, I don't agree with that. I'm not saying that I don't agree with the system and how it's set up. I'm saying that I don't agree with the team that you put into it. And that's by your criteria. I agree with it being 4, but I'm not always going to agree with who you put in there. And that's okay. That's okay, but I do agree with how you have it set up. And at the end of the day, what do fans want to see? They want to see good, competitive games. And that is where the committee should be focused. They should be focused on who is going to be a good, competitive game based off of their record, their conference, were they in a conference championship game? Did they win it? All those things. And then have it come down to who's going to be the most competitive, who's going to be the most exciting. Because at the end of the day, what do they want to do? They want to get ratings. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, they want ratings, they want money.
Yeah.
They are going to put out the teams that they think are going to make the most money. But I'll tell you what is, while Alabama continues to be a humongous powerhouse, I wonder if people, and I could be wrong, but I wonder if people are getting a little tired of them.
Who? Alabama?
Fans.
Just
fans.
Alabama
I wonder if fans are getting tired of seeing Alabama over and over and over and over and over each and every year. Now,
it's what happens with greatness.
Now, and it is, and I don't have any problem with greatness because I don't necessarily have any problem with Golden State. I don't have any problem with the Patriots. Beat them then. Be better.
I hated Tom Brady for the longest time.
Be better, but that's another discussion, and I'm sure we're way over time here, but then beat them. Then be better. You think they're just out here cheating? Well, New England kind of did, but I think it's like it's one of those things where
Bill Belichick.
Are they doing something different? Are they doing something special? They have a good head coach with a great track record who has shown great success, and people know he wins, so they go there. Hire yourself a head coach that can do that. Get players that want to win and that can win, and there you go. There's a recipe for success. Until teams start to do that, they're not going to knock off another team like an Alabama, and they're not going to be like the Golden State Warriors. They're not going to be like what the New England Patriots have been for so many years. It's one of those things where people can continue to be upset, but nothing's going to change if you continue to do the same old thing that you've always done.
Well, this is where you guys come in. Let us know what you guys think down below in that comment section. What do you think about this nightmare scenario? What could it mean for the college football playoff? And what are your thoughts overall about the college football playoff? Let us know what you think down below in that comment section.